Welcome, everybody. I would like to welcome you to this third of our Tuesday talks. It's a series of virtual information sessions for prospective students, for their parents, for consultants, for international agents, anyone who would like to know more about the fabulous programs that we have at Stuart Hall. A lot of these are new since COVID. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that everybody knew how successful these programs are going and how you and your family and your students can be a part of them. I would like to remind you that this is a webinar, so we can't see you. You can see us. And I would like you to save all of your questions, please, until the end when we have a question and answer session. And we will put those, we'll ask you to put them in the chat, and we'll be able to review them and answer them as they come up. Hopefully, a lot of those questions will be answered during the presentation itself, but we are always happy to welcome questions and always happy to have any of you reach out to us afterwards and ask more specific or private questions. So right now, I would like to introduce Michael Robinson, the head of school. Hi, Michael.
Good morning, Carrie. Thank you very much and welcome everybody. As Carrie said, I'm Michael Robinson. I'm the head of school. I want to thank you for being with us and taking the time to learn more about Stuart Hall. Founded in 1844, we have been preparing young people for engaged lives of intellectual curiosity, creativity, contribution. That's our mission, and it guides everything that we do here at Stuart Hall. We believe that a choice to have a child attend Stuart Hall is a commitment of time and resources on every family's part. And most importantly, families are trusting us as partners in each child's education and personal formation. These are trusts that we take very seriously. And I'm thanking you for taking the time to learn more about us today. And I hope that we'll have the opportunity to get to know you more in the coming days and weeks. From years of working with and listening to parents, we know that parents and families are seeking an environment that will foster a child's growth toward meaningful, strong academic experiences that challenge each child academically, emotionally, and prepare them for the challenges of college and for life. Stuart Hall students are intelligent, they're well-rounded. Our academic program provides a highly engaging academic environment with life balance and a community of students and families who share a commitment to character development, to community living, academic excellence, whole child education, and solid preparation for the rigors of college. We hear from parents and from colleges where Student Hall students matriculate that our alumni are resourceful. They're resilient students, ethical, capable, compassionate citizens who each make their communities better places. So clearly, I'm very proud of Stuart Hall, our students, our teachers, our staff, and our families. I hope you will enjoy our time together today and learn a bit more about why I am so proud, and that this will be the beginning of just a long conversation and relationship together. Thanks for being here. Carrie, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Michael. I'm just going to be handing it right over to Jason Cody. He's our Director of Student Life, and he's going to be presenting about residence life and co-curriculars.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to take some time today to share with you a couple of programs at Stuart Hall that we're pretty proud of, starting with our afternoon or co-curricular programs. If I could just ask for the slides to be backed up a couple, please. We took the opportunity of that the pandemic presented, in a sense, to rethink our afternoons at Stuart Hall and what do we want them to look like and what are our goals. And what came out of it was an entirely new co-curricular program that was based on these principles. First, that we do want to do what any good co-curricular program will do, which is extend or enhance our core academic offerings, building on the skills that we're learning and the ways that we're thinking about working together and viewing the world and critical thinking and communicating, and extending those into what we do want to do in the afternoons and putting them in a different context as we do so. We wanted to do this in a way that created opportunities for students to explore new interests or to deepen interests in existing ones. Looking at various models for co-curricular programs, we opted not to go with what might be considered the traditional one in which everybody is required to play a sport, for example, or everybody is required to be involved every afternoon all year round. But to structure a program that would give students a lot more opportunity to do both of these things. High school really should be a time for exploring, finding out who you are, figuring out what those passions are, diving deeply into those passions, or exploring some new interests. Perhaps just dabbling, don't have time to do something full-time through an academic course, but you can capture some of the same ideas in the afternoons, and maybe that's the way you want to do that. So we really wanted that to underlie a lot of what we did. And one reason for that is because we wanted to think not just about those opportunities, but also about how we can help the students manage their own well-being. In some cases, being involved 5 or 6 days a week is exactly what a student wants, and it's how they thrive. And other times, it's not. And for them to recognize that they have some choice and control over how they take care of themselves, pandemic or no pandemic, was important for us as we developed this program. Finally, we wanted the co-curricular program to be an extension of what we do during the class day, which is all based on our Stuart Hall graduate goals. So everything that we do, every co-curricular program that we offer has exactly the same underlying documents that every class that we offer has, that points to which of those graduate goals are we working on and developing and highlighting through the program, and what are the ways in which we're doing it, and how are we going to know, and how are students going to know what they've learned, and get some feedback so that they can continue to grow and be successful. If we can look at the next slide, please. In doing, pardon me, in doing this, we really do want to go beyond academics in thinking about these co-curricular programs, while still picking up the same idea as we highlight in a number of ways and are very proud of. We are a mastery boarding school working closely with members of the Mastery Transcript Consortium, really focusing on an entirely different way of thinking about how students not just learn, but how they understand what they're learning and how they learn how to transfer those ideas, and how they view learning as something that's a lifelong process, not something that happens in a classroom and culminates with a test. So we wanted to extend those ideas through the afternoon by offering a variety of programs in a variety of areas, again, to let students play and explore or to dive deeply. I said earlier, we chose not to require 5-6 day a week participation, but we do require participation because we do think that the engagement is important. And one of the things that any educator at any school will tell you is if you hand a student an opportunity, they might look at it and say, I don't think I would enjoy that, even though they wouldn't actually know. So by getting them to actually get involved, participate, try some new things, they're able at the end, as I frequently say to them, to say one of two things. I was right, I really didn't enjoy that. Or, you know what, I surprised myself, that was great, and I want to do that some more. The last piece of this is to go back to this idea of consistently connecting to our graduate goals, as I mentioned before. And then finally, to really build up interactions between our day and our boarding students, and then the different ways that we put these programs together. The day student, boarding student division exists on every boarding school campus. Every school works on it in some way. This is one of the ways that we've chosen to do it very intentionally. If we can look at the next slide, then I'll share just a little bit of program details here. So our programs are offered in the afternoon. Academic day goes until 3:30. Then generally programs pick up about 20 minutes later, run until 5:30 on weekdays. We do have some that will also meet on weekends, either for an extended activity or a trip, or in the case of athletics, they'll have competitions on weekends, perhaps. We do require all students in grades 8 through 12 to participate every season. We break it up into 3 seasons, but again, we don't require 5-day-a-week participation, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like in a couple of minutes. But we do require everybody to participate. We do require, if we can jump back for just a minute there, please. We do require continued participation in athletics. but it doesn't have to be interscholastic athletics, which is also something that I will touch on shortly as we look at some different offerings there. And then our athletic director will also share a little bit more down the road. But we also extended this so that it's grades 8 through 12. At so many schools where you might see grades 9 through 12, but we wanted to bring the 8th graders in. And there was a very intentional move on our part for a couple of reasons. One, developmentally, what we've come to understand from working closely with our students and their families is that our 8th graders are frequently hungry. They're ready for more. One of them described it a couple years ago as 8th grade feels like, I know how to swim and I see people swimming in the deep end. I know I could do it, but they won't let me swim in the deep end yet. And so our response to that was, you know what, that's great. And that's really valuable information. And let's do something about it. And one of the things that we did was say, jump into the deep end and join into these afternoon programs, whatever way it may be. So if we can jump ahead, then I'll just show you a couple of offerings that we have. Athletics, again, our athletic director will share a little bit more about that shortly. We do also have competitive esports teams. And in addition to that, we take every Friday with our esports teams and any student on campus and run a program that's called Gaming the Right Way, in which they do get together and they play games collaboratively. But they also stop and talk about balancing the digital world and the non-digital world, about how it all fits together, about stress management and so many other things, so that esports really becomes a tool for us for teaching those life skills again. Offerings that are much as what you would expect here. We do have a teacher with us who runs one of our community service offerings, and she's going to share a little bit more about that in a minute. We offer a version of debate called Moot Court, similar to what you might be familiar with from the college setting of mock trial, in which students are given cases and then they prepare arguments on both sides of it and go into competition to argue. But very successful student teams with this over the years, and are thrilled to be able to offer it. And our students really do seem to thrive and enjoy it. And then the last offering you'll see there, mindfulness. I've mentioned well-being once before. Well-being is one of our graduate goals. One of the things that we wanted to do was actually thoughtfully, intentionally give students the opportunity to learn about mindfulness and develop their own skills and habits around mindfulness. So that became something that we offer in the afternoons. A number of students, more than we might have expected, actually signed up, because there's a real hunger for it right now, thinking about their self-care and thinking about their long-term mental and physical health and well-being. And that's just, to me, a great example of what our co-curricular programs offer, is a way to really explore those things that you want to explore outside of that more typical academic day. We do have a quick slide here just to give you a sense. I said, so some things are required. Well, here's kind of what that might look like for a student. Student in the fall who chooses to do afternoon arts program, natural arts, a program that we offer that really focuses on arts and the environment, arts and the outdoors, whether it's through multimedia pieces that they produce, or whether it's simply by being outside and drawing their inspiration for a drawing or a watercolor. But this, in the sample schedule, this is a student who's chosen to do that, and that's the only thing that student has chosen to do. Has some free time and some afternoons through the fall. Basketball player through the winter, and then jumps into community service, doing a couple of different activities through the spring. I don't want this slide to be misleading. The student could well do 2 days of community service and a day of mindfulness, or 2 days of community service and 2 days of intramural soccer, or any number of other things throughout all 3 seasons. This is one of the real upsides as we see it, is students have the ability to mix and match. Instead of being committed to a single program, they can actually get involved in many different things, even in the course of one season. Community service, as I mentioned, is one of the areas where we really do try to dive in and give students a variety of opportunities. And I'd like to invite our 6th grade teacher, Jennifer Bartley, to jump in now and share a little bit about the community service program that she's offering this year.
Thank you, Jason. And yes, I'm Jen Bartley, the 6th grade teacher. And when we started Co-Curriculars, I knew immediately I wanted to do something in the realm of service learning. And I gravitated towards Anna's House, a new private school in Stanton on the VSDB campus. And I also knew I wanted to engage the whole school. So this is a community service opportunity for grades 5 through 12. And so when I started this, I set forth some goals and then decided, okay, how can we attain those goals? So I'll kind of read through what our performance goals are, how they tie into our STU grad goals, and then kind of walk you through what an afternoon looks like for our dragons. So when I set forth the goals, I know it's important to be good stewards in our community, and I wanted this to be experiential learning. So the piece tying in the learning by doing, but also having the time to reflect. So I wanted students to recognize that they can make an impact in the community. However small it is, they can still make an impact. Students can demonstrate effective communication skills. That's really important, also one of our grad goals. So I wanted to make sure that was something that I was actively assessing. They would develop a reflective practice that enables them to think critically about their service learning experience. So making sure we had some time to reflect when we returned back from our session. And then being able to collaborate with students of varying ages to enhance leadership skills. So through that, I do expect good attendance. Now, grades 5 through 7, it's not required that they do a co-curricular. Surprisingly enough, or maybe not so surprisingly, most of my students are in 5th through 7th that choose to come. It's 1 or 2 days a week. You don't have to commit to both days, but most of them do. And I want them to have enthusiasm. It's really magical when we walk into Anna's house and everyone's eyes light up. They see each other, they know who they are by name, they're their buddies, and it's really sweet on both ends. And then, of course, take initiative. It's really important when working out in the community with students that you take initiative and you positively interact with one another. And then, of course, the reflective piece. It's really important for students to identify areas of success and for growth. So we work through that actively. And those do tie into our STU grad goals. Citizenship especially, it provides students with opportunities to learn about child development. It bridges a gap between age groups and then gives them a more inclusive and open view of the world around them. And then with communication, of course, when communicating with younger students, they learn a lot about body language and listening skills, and then also being able to speak and even write to a specific audience. And then collaboration, of course, this lends itself to collaboration. I want them to develop strong leadership skills and encourage them to interact. And this is very student-led. So to run you through a typical day, and then we can talk about some of the extra activities we've done. The students come to my room about 3:30. We have a snack and we talk about who, typically they're paired with one student consistently. And we found that the younger ages really cling to that. They like the comfort of knowing who their buddy is. And throughout this whole experience too, we start to find out through reflection, okay, this student needs this. So let's pair this student, this dragon, with these skills with this student. And so it is not only collaborative within our own group, our co-curricular, we work with the teachers and the support staff at Anna's house. And so we depart about 3:50. It's a short drive. We're there by 4. And they start with homework time. So our dragons pair with 1 or 2 dragonflies. They're the dragonflies, so it works out perfectly. And they support them in homework, call out spelling words, math facts, and so forth. Listen to them read. And then there's some free time. So a lot of times, of course, during COVID, we want to get outside as much as possible. So our dragons initiate games and activities with the students, play alongside with them. They assist with dismissal. So our dragons actually meet each dragonfly's parents. They walk them to the door, introduce themselves. They get to know each other on first name basis. And we depart about 5 o'clock. And with the co-curricular ending at 5:30, it's perfect because we get back here about 5:15 and we have 15 minutes of reflection. Through reflection, our first session decided they wanted to do something a little extra for the students. So for a fall celebration, they planned bingo, a craft, and snack activities. We had a cakewalk, all completely led by the students. I was just there to provide moral support, and the kids absolutely loved it. They're helping out with a gingerbread workshop this Thursday. And even though we've changed sessions, we moved from our fall session to our winter session, a lot of the same students came back. And even if they didn't, I'm actually hosting an activity on Saturday. I sent an email out, and a lot of our past dragons have volunteered, even on the weekends, to go help Anna's house with an evening activity. So I think all in all, it's been a very effective co-curricular for communication, and not only for the community, but even being good stewards and getting out into the community and getting to know our hopeful future dragons at Anna's house.
Thank you, Jen. I want to add that a friend of mine's daughter is at Anna's house. She's a preschooler over there, and her mother used to pick her up when school was over, and now the daughter insists on staying for after school on the days that Stuart Hall students come over. Didn't make the mom real happy. She wanted her daughter home with her, but the daughter loves it. All right, so we're now going to pass the program back to Jason, and he's going to talk a little bit about residential life.
Absolutely, I would love to. I am going to share a similar story to Carrie's first. My daughter is a 9th grader, and she did Dragonflies and Dragons with Jen Bartley there in the fall. And my daughter's doing something else this winter, and she came home one day last week and said, "Oh, the afternoon was good, but I missed my kids." She really, really enjoyed it, and she can't wait to get back into it in the spring. And it's inspiring. That's exactly what we talk about when we talk about, find the passion, find the thing that you're interested in, explore new options. She hadn't really done volunteering like that before, and she is all in on it and can't wait to get back to it. But shifting gears, I do want to talk a little bit as well about residential life. And I should lead with a warning, which is that I can talk boarding school all day long. I went to boarding school. I have lived in dorms, either as a student or an RA or as a faculty member for the majority of my life. And I just think it's the best thing ever. And I try to bring that to everything that we do. And quite frankly, I think that our dorm parents, whether they are first-year dorm parents or fifth-year dorm parents or 15th-year dorm parents, have that same energy and love for residential life and for really doing what we say here at the top, which is trying to develop the whole child. It's important that we help students see themselves as whole beings, recognizing that the thing that happened in class or the thing that happened in community service may impact or tie into something that happens in the dining room or in the dorm or during a weekend activity, and really helping them kind of understand that, draw those connections, see how something that they really enjoy about some aspect of residential life might point them to some new class they should explore, some new co-curricular they should try out. We do try to do a number of things as we do work to develop the whole child. All along the way, we foster leadership. That starts day one. And actually, as you heard Jen Bartley explained there a minute ago, we're developing leadership even in our 5th, 6th, and 7th graders as they developed this afternoon celebration for the children they were volunteering with. But we really do foster leadership, starting with self-awareness and an understanding of how your actions impact others, to how can you help others impact more, to how can you be the leader, the role model, the one who sets the example, and ultimately the one who looks out for and takes care of others, peers, younger students, whatever the case may be. Well-being is an important part of residential life. We do pay attention to things like sleep and nutrition. Again, because I could talk about this for hours and hours, I'm resisting the temptation to dive in and really talk about all the different ways that our program design highlights well-being and is intentionally built with well-being in mind. Suffice it to say, and as you'll see as we look at a day in the life here in a minute, that there are a number of ways in which we've tried to be very intentional about caring for students' well-being. Inclusion and belonging absolutely is something that we do. Everything for us is about starting with seeing the other as a person. Let's see the individual. Let's talk about the roommate conflict. Let's talk about why you like to do this activity and the other person likes to do something else. And from that understanding, we then build into how do we design programs? How do we have dorm meetings, weekend activities, meals that are inclusive, which doesn't just mean everybody feels welcome, but it means that people feel like they have a voice in what happens and designing what we do and in giving feedback so that they can help make their own experience even better. I mentioned role modeling and mentoring already. Curiosity, creativity, and contribution really are driving themes through our mission and throughout everything we do for us. And so when you look at the service that we just described that we do on the weekends, or the ways that Students contribute by being leaders, by serving as RAs on dorm, or by being members of the food committee and giving feedback so that we can pay attention to both student needs, desires, and also to student health and wellness. Exploring new things, getting to know new people, going downtown, trying new restaurants. In so many different ways, we really do weave those things into what we do. And then ultimately, it's towards these last four characteristics. It is about a progressive level, progressive steps to develop independence for our students so that where they come in, as you'll hear shortly, fairly structured routines as freshmen. By the time they're seniors, freedom and independence and the ability to self-direct their time and manage themselves as they prepare to go to college. Self-awareness becomes a big part of it, as I mentioned there, through so many other areas, whether we're talking about inclusion and belonging or whether we're talking about well-being. And finally, the motivation, finding the thing that you want to do and finding how to motivate yourself to do it really is woven into so much of what we do. So I put together quickly on the next slide, just kind of a generic overview of what a day looks like and a weekend might look like for a boarding student. We have breakfast in the morning, and then our academic day starts at 8:30 and goes till 3:30, as you've seen. Programs that you may or may not be participating in on any given day in the afternoon. We have dinner here in the dining room every night, and every student checks in every night. They're not required to eat. They sometimes will order out. Occasionally they might walk downtown for dinner. They do have to be back and check in though. We see them and we sort of check in with them. How was your day and what's your plan for the night? Around 7:30, we get into study hall. We have a proctored study hall that you'll hear more about shortly for our newer students and our younger students, and then that progresses to increasing degrees of freedom for as students get older and demonstrate that they are able to handle that freedom and self-direct. Everybody checks in at the end of the night around 10 o'clock, lights out at 11. In between there is time for everything from showers and laundry to visiting with friends, watching a movie, sharing a snack together, getting a little extra work done, Zooming, FaceTiming with family or friends at home, any number of other things. Our weekends, students sleep in, brunch starts at 11:30, so they're welcome to get up early, and many do. But we'll have brunch, we'll have dinner, and then they check in at the end of the night. And we don't have a true lights out on a weekend, but we call it a soft lights out. And what we mean by that is you head to your room and you're kind of settled for the night. You want to stay up and watch a movie, stay up and watch a movie, but you and your room, you and your roommate watching a movie together, reading a book, something like that, is very different than 6 or 8 of you sitting in a room together engaged in something or sort of having an impromptu dance party. Impromptu dance parties are fabulous, but at some point it's time to wind down. And one of the reasons that we really emphasize that goes back to well-being. We know that a consistent sleep schedule is important and that it's very disruptive for teenagers to go to bed at 11 o'clock 5 nights a week and at 2 or 3 a.m. 2 nights a week. And so we really encourage them to develop good sleep hygiene, good sleep habits. Our weekends sprinkled in there among those scheduled things that happen every day on the weekend will be activities. They'll be on campus and off campus, Friday night, Saturday morning, afternoon, or evening, Sunday the same way. And they're everything from quick shopping trips in town to a longer shopping trip to Charlottesville or to Richmond. One might do a movie night on campus in the Student Center or in the auditorium. Hiking trips, we're incredibly fortunate here in the Shenandoah Valley to have a national park to the east of us, the Blue Ridge Parkway and all this wonderful hiking just south of that, and then a national forest to the rest of us, and West Virginia not much further beyond that. So many ways that we can get outdoors and play and explore. And we take advantage of that as much as we can. But then we also take advantage of all the other cultural attractions and opportunities that we have. So whether it's a weekend symphony performance in Charlottesville or a trip to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, as we took a few weeks ago, to see an Ansel Adams exhibit in Richmond, we build up opportunities that in some ways philosophically reflect our co-curricular programs, create a lot of opportunity, help students dive deeply into things that they love, also explore new things, dabble, get involved, but also self-direct and check in with themselves and know, you know what I need to do? I need to sit in my room and just kind of have a low-key afternoon. And when that's what they need, that's what they get to do. So that's what our day looks like. We'll stay on the slide, and I'm going to introduce Miranda Hogan, who is our Director of Learning Support Services and also a dormitory affiliate living on campus with her husband and their dog. And I think there's some fish as well. And I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about both that proctored study hall and study halls in general, and then also weekends and her experiences with students and the ways that she works with them as an on-campus faculty member.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and talk about my wonderful home and wonderful workplace, Stuart Hall School. Like Jason said, I do live on campus and serve as a dorm affiliate. So I don't live in the dorms with the students, but I live right across the street. I can see all the dorms in my office from my house. And most of my weeknight evenings involvement are in that proctored study hall, which is a 2-hour period, 7:30 to 9:30. Freshmen are required to be a part of that. New sophomores are required to be a part of that. And as Jason mentioned, one of our philosophies is kind of that progressive levels of independence when you show that you are able to handle that. And so if you show that you are not able to handle that, proctored study hall is one of the supports that could potentially be put in place. And what that looks like is students arrive, they check in with me. Cell phones are not allowed in proctored study hall, so we dismiss with the cell phones. And kind of like Jason mentioned as well, I kind of get to know like, okay, well, what's your plan for tonight? What work do you have? What classes do you have coming up? I'm very familiar with all of the students' schedules and in tune with kind of what's going on with their classes. So typically if they say, yeah, well, I know I have this coming up and I'm really struggling with it, I'm able to jump in and support them with that. And we just kind of go through our evening and I'll make sure, you know, we're staying on task. And do you need help with this? Oh, this teacher really needs to, you know, meet with you. So let's work together to schedule an appointment. Oh, hey, you're not making good choices. Let's redirect with that. And kind of give them that really supported and structured time of this is your time to work and get done what you need to get done. And the students are very appreciative of that. I have several students who at the end of the night, they'll kind of take a deep breath, say, wow, I just got so much done tonight. And I'm like, great, that's so good to hear. And now you get to, you know, go up and have some fun time in the evening before it's time for lights out. On the weekends, we have such a variety of activities available. I have learned how to play badminton. That is a very important skill that if you do not have as a member of the Stuart Hall community, you will gain very quickly, and you will be very sore right here in your arms. That's usually every Friday night is badminton. It's very popular, well attended. I have gotten to take some students on shopping trips, show them around Charlottesville, which is where I went to school and lived for quite a time. So that was fun to get to show them that. And just be present on campus and part of the community. I eat most of my meals in our dining hall, and so I get to see students frequently. I love that students know my dog and want to come up and say hi to the dog. Some of our other faculty members who have young children, you know, the students know the children, they miss their siblings, and so they get to have that little interaction there. And it's just really nice to have a kind of different relationship with the students apart from teacher student and more like a family and parent student. I think I hit on everything I needed to.
Well, thank you very much, Miranda. I guess now we're going to head on to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Jason, were you going to talk a little bit about some additional support before we head on to athletics?
Absolutely. Happy to. And the way I'm going to get into the support is actually by saying that Miranda's a little bit selling herself short in the sense Miranda has kind of become our horse whisperer for freshmen. She teaches freshman seminar. So she has all the freshmen in addition to overseeing that proctored study hall. So she really knows what's going on in their lives, builds connections, and it makes students who came in any number of levels of need, whether they'd never been away from home before or the academics were more challenging, whatever the case may be, we've seen growth across the board because of the work that she's done and the work that she's structured for the rest of us to do to really take care of those students. And it just sets them up for success down the road. Miranda and I, along with our school counselor and our school nurse, also form what we call the student support team. We meet regularly and we talk about students. We get feedback from teachers, from dorm parents, from coaches, from advisors on what they're seeing, both good and bad. Things that they're concerned about, things where they know a student could use some support, things where they're starting to worry about a student, whether it's academic, social, emotional, or anything else. And we sat down and we talk and we formulate, we strategize, we reach out to families, we connect the students with a trusted adult here. We do our own digging. We really sort of go out of our way. In a sense, I like, what Miranda said when she said, it's kind of like a family. It feels kind of like a family. It really does. There's a lot of people looking out for other people here. There's a lot of communication, a lot of sharing, and a lot of really making sure that it really is that village raising a child in a sense. So we have all those supports in place as well for our students. And then the ability, because of where we are, to go to outside resources if we need additional supports in any number of areas too. So that's sort of quick overview of residential life and how we support our students. As I said, I could go on, but I do think that I'll hand back to Carrie so that we can hear a little bit more about some of our afternoon offerings.
Hey, one thing I want to point out is, as a mother of, I only have one child left at Stuart Hall. She's a senior, but I've had 3 children go all the way from grade school on through here. And when they talk about family, they're not just talking about our residents. They're not just talking about our boarding students. It's a beautiful opportunity for the boarding students, whether they be from America or from around the world, to get to know our local students, and a great way for our local students to expand their horizons and feel part of a much larger family than you otherwise would in our lovely, admittedly charming little town in the Shenandoah Valley. So this family feeling is shared all around and goes both ways. So now I would like to introduce to you Jeff Lefebvre. He is a gem, a new addition to our Stuart Hall family this year, and his enthusiasm and professionalism in the way that he approaches our athletic program is inspiring. It's inspiring to us, it's inspiring to the kids. I love watching him recruit players, and I love watching him interact with parents, whether they be from our team or from other teams. Just a great all-around professional. Jeff, I'm going to let you give a little bit of your background, because I might get something wrong, but it's very impressive. So pass it over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, my name is Jeff Lefebvre. In my first year here at Stuart Hall in an athletic director role, and also coach the boys team. And I'm also involved with the co-curriculars with Mr. Cody, doing some weight training. And so they actually dovetail nicely together. The interscholastic athletics and our co-curriculars are all one and the same. It's not a separate entity. So just to give you a little bit about my background, I was a college basketball coach for 16 years, coached at all 3 levels, Division 1, 2, and 3, including a head coaching job at Washington and Lee down the road in Lexington for about an hour from here. So got a lot of connections with the career recruiting, as Carrie mentioned, and very comfortable in that role from a basketball standpoint. I've also had independent school experience at a day school in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, where I coached the girls basketball team to a state title. And I have a young lady now playing in the WNBA. So not much to do with me, to be honest, but certainly was a talented young lady, very driven, very hardworking. The parents saw the value of the independent school education and helped prepare her for her. She went to the University of Georgia, so she was well prepared from her independent school experience, which is why I like my role as an athletic director here at Stuart Hall. Athletically, we're trying to move forward responsibly with COVID. Obviously, with you're competing against other schools, having to make sure our backgrounds are the same with the masking and the indoor rules and the outdoor rules. So a lot of my day is contacting other athletic directors, other schools, making sure that it's safe for our student athletes to participate. With the masking, some schools, it's just a lot of different rules and mitigation and things that I don't really want to get into, but you have to. So making sure that our athletes are safe is number one as they move off campus or other schools come to our school to compete, making sure that through COVID, we're doing the right thing by the young people. So right now in the fall, we offer boys soccer, volleyball, and cross country. Right now, our winter sports is boys and girls basketball. And in spring, which we have yet to do with me at the helm, we're looking to do girls soccer, tennis, and hopefully our track get that off the ground in the spring. So those are our offerings from an interscholastic standpoint. Intramurals, it's all about, with Mr. Robinson that we talked about when I interviewed, it's about meaningful experiences. If the kids are having a meaningful athletic experience, then we're doing our job. The wins and losses, everybody wants to win when you compete, but it's really a secondary role right now as we move forward. Are the kids having a good time? My basketball team won last night by 15, and you think we won the NBA championship. So we were thrilled with them last night. They had a big win. Everybody played. It's not always going to be that way, and that's why I love competition through athletics. There's one way you can add to your academic piece is through competition. I think it builds character in people, because you're not always going to play hard and win. A lot of times academically, you'll study with Miranda in her study hall, and you'll take that test and you'll get your 100. In athletics, sometimes it just doesn't play out that way. You can prepare, you can really work hard, do all the things you need to do, and you just come up short. So athletically, I think it builds life values, puts in a lot of work, builds character in people, and that's why I think it's really big and important part of participating in the sport. So I have just a quick slideshow that I wanted to show. I put it together during one of our all school assemblies. It is basketball based, because I was trying to tell the students, show them about our tradition basketball wise. So let me just get this slideshow up here. Okay. The first one, as you see, is a resurgence. I just moved down a couple. I'm very proud of this one. We were actually state championship in 2017 with the girls basketball team. So not too long ago, Stuart Hall placed the state championship team.
Jeff, we can't see your slide.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
No. We're putting Jeff a little bit on the spot here. This is his first webinar presentation. So
That better?
yeah, now you can go, if you want, you can go into, well, this is PowerPoints. Maybe you can view it in presentation mode.
Okay.
There should be a view button. You're real close to it there. On the top red bar.
Okay. Where am I close?
You go to the right a little bit. And it really doesn't matter. If you want to, if you're more comfortable just staying in this screen, that's fine too.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we just stay here? That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, apologize for my lack of electronic prowess. But I just wanted to show, obviously, we're real proud of the past people that played here at Stuart Hall. And we do have a pretty decorated past in basketball with, we've got people that have gone on to play in college. We've got decorated players. Lexi Lee was a lady who's going on to James Madison. She's not playing basketball there, but obviously you can see she was a really good player here. And we also produced a professional athlete in Adam Pickett. He graduated here in 2015. Obviously, you see he was here for 2 years, ended up going to play Division I basketball, and then played at Winthrop, and now he's currently playing in Germany. And I keep in touch with Adam, obviously being new to the athletic program, wanting to introduce myself to our past graduates and make sure they know that we're here, we're new. I'm new, but I would like to get to know them and see how their experiences were here and how we could change or move forward with what we're trying to do. So just a couple of slides there. Like I said, why play? Many athletes do better academically. It's proven that if you have an academic athletic part of your program in your daily life, then you have to budget time, which obviously at the college level, a lot of what you do is budgeting your time because you don't have your structured 8:30 to 3:30 class time. So at the end of the day, it's proven that if you do play a sport, you're more driven academically. You're also more focused to do your athletic work. Through memorization, repetitive learning, all those things that you need to do, they carry over to your academic day. Learn to work as a team. There's benefits of that, teaching social skills. Obviously with COVID, that's kind of thrown a curveball into a lot of it, but we have to adapt to that, improve self-confidence. Obviously you're out there putting yourself out there in an athletic environment where people are watching you. And a lot of times you can't hide behind what you're doing. So it improves self-confidence as you get more comfortable with what you're doing in the sport. That's a very important part of why you participate in athletics. Reduces bullying, sets students up for more success. In the last one, I tried to say, give it a try, have some fun. Athletics is meant to be fun. A lot of people put too much emphasis on winning. I'd like to win, but it's also say, let's get everybody out there participating. And, I've never played it before, That's a lot of the reason why people don't want to play sports. So I'm trying to break down those barriers here at Stuart Hall. There's no pressure, even though COVID may have changed a lot of things. We encourage everybody to give it a try because that's what's coaching for. That's why you have coaches. And then I have a want to join. You can always come to my website. The kids know where my office is. It's up in the gym, up in the back corner. I get a lot of traffic coming by my office. It's always willing to chat with people to find out more about what we're trying to do athletically. So yeah, and that's all right. So that's basically what I wanted to point out with my PowerPoint. But you know, it just basically from an athletic standpoint, understanding that it's a galvanizing thing. I think from a standpoint of, you know, we can generate a lot of spirit, school spirit. We're the Dragons. We just got a dragon costume yesterday. You know, we had the lady in our lunch. She was going around in the dragon costume, so everybody's excited to see that, and that's what sports is really all about. And you know, I think that moving forward, we're looking forward to building the programs as the kids see fit. You know, we have kids at whatever they would like to play. We would like to offer that interscholastically, or also intramurally. That's another facet of our athletic program, that with the co-curriculars, we can offer intramural sports, which obviously is maybe a little bit less time consuming, but also very enjoyable. And you know, like I said, and all the three things will dovetail together. But I'm really excited to be a part of this. Like I said, we're just getting started with my tenure as athletic director and coach. And I'm really excited to kind of move forward with the recruiting aspect, like Carrie said, not only with basketball, but any sport that I can offer from a college standpoint, being at the college level for so long, working on the other side of the door, so to speak, from a mission standpoint, trying to recruit kids to come to schools. And I really think that Stuart Hall, what I've learned in my short time here is it's really like a college environment in a lot of ways. You have the dorm piece, you have the day students, you have Stanton, which is right down the road, which the kids can frequently go down and you know, go to a donut shop, go down and get some pizza. As long as they're responsible, they check back in with Mr. Cody. But that's there. And that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of rural independent schools where you don't have this kind of activity with your town. So I really think it's got a lot going for it from that standpoint. So like when my experiences at Washington and Lee, small college town, Stanton seems like that same feel. So I'm really excited that we can offer our school and our community this opportunity athletically, as well as all the wonderful things that are being done academically and from a co-curricular standpoint.
Thank you, Jeff. That was great. I think you took some of the words out of my mouth at the end there about the town.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And no, that's wonderful. You did a beautiful job. And especially, you know, relating it to the college towns that you've worked in. I will point out that if you Google something like 20 most charming college town main streets, guess what town pops up? Stanton, Virginia.
The Beverly Street. It was when I interviewed for the job, Mr. Cody, we walked down from his house and we went down to Beverly Street. You thought you were in New Orleans. Really, it was so vibrant, people walking up and down the street freely. All the restaurants had spilled out into the main town, you know, into the street, was the Beverly Street, because they cordoned it off for the weekend. I was really impressed. I remember Jason and I were talking as we were interviewing and going through things when I first got here, and I just kept looking around saying, this is tremendous. I mean, this is a really good experience for me to be here, and I'm looking forward to continuing our success.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
So it's about time to move on to question and answers, but first I'm going to put a little plug in for our next webinar, which is next Tuesday. We're going to be talking about some of our artistic partnerships. Speaking of Stanton, it's a very artsy town. We're home to a couple of world-renowned artistic programs, including Heifetz Musical Institute and the American Shakespeare Center. And if you're a Shakespeare fan from anywhere in the world, you know all about the Blackfriars Theater. I did actually stick a little slide in there earlier when we were looking at some co-curricular offerings about theater. I took 2 nights ago as my daughter was on stage at the American Shakespeare Center. And that opportunity was because we are working with Silver Line Theater, which is a theater conservatory here in town. So you can hear more about that next week, more about our partnership with Heifetz, which is an amazing new program for budding string professionals. to be part of the Stuart Hall community and take advantage of all of the musical benefits of working with HIFITs. So we're going to move on to questions. Does anybody have a question for us? Please put it in the chat room. I know we did a lot of talking today, so we may have answered all your questions before they even came up.
Yeah, Carrie, while we're waiting for some questions, I wanted to just share an observation as I was listening to all the different presentations, and thank you everyone for talking about the programs. You've all done a great job developing those in your respective areas. But what I want to observe is the commonalities and the integration in earlier webinars in talking about our curriculum, our pedagogy of mastery learning. We've talked about the increasing independence and student agency in the classroom, self-awareness, self-direction, motivation, all those skills that help a student academically in the classroom become capable learners that they will take both here at Stuart Hall into college, and then, as we all know, are important in adult lives and professional lives. And yet what we're hearing today is how those same elements of self-direction, motivation, self-awareness, increasing independence is woven seamlessly into the residential life, into academics, where Miranda and teachers in study hall are encouraging that to extend that mindset and to apply those skills to transfer and generalize them into their evening study program, into what Jen talked about in service learning. And so that is in part, I was hearing and just want to emphasize the beauty both for boarding students and for day students to have that framework for learning extend out into other parts of their life. And so they really, schools often talk about developing lifelong learners. Well, that doesn't mean that their learning is in the classroom. Learning is about the totality and the fullness of their whole life. And so obviously I get very excited about this, and I just was really pleased to hear how all of our different presenters were kind of singing off the same song sheet, but in their respective areas. I thought it was really great.
Thank you, Michael. That was a very nice way to wrap that all up. I also wanted to respond to something that one of the panelists said, and that was, Jason, when you were talking about how some of the students feel a little bit resistant to some of the co-curriculars. I have to say that my daughter thought that it was just awful that we were going to be requiring students to be doing anything after school. And after about the first week, she stopped making all these noises and was quiet for a while. And then a couple of weeks later, she started talking about how much not only she enjoys the co-curriculars, but how surprising it was that so many of her friends were loving them. So there's something to be said for forcing kids to try something new and letting them explore whether they want to or not, and learning more about themselves.
There is, I agree, and we do that not just with the co-curriculars. We actually require our freshmen and sophomores to participate in some weekend activity or boarders almost every weekend. Just last Friday, there was an opportunity a couple of students signed up for, and then they were like, "I really don't want to do that." They were kind of resisting, and the person who was on duty said, "Well, you signed up, why don't you go down there anyway?" They loved it. They had a great time. They stayed longer than they had to. It really is. It's just, I was a teenager. I know exactly how I was. Once you get going, then you start to find out what you like. And that's the beauty of, I said, I can talk about boarding school forever. It's one of the beauties of boarding school. There's so much to do. You can always do something, whether it's something more or something new. So you take advantage of it. But yeah, we do nudge our students for sure to learn how to take advantage of it by making them do some things. But once they start to fulfill those requirements, then all of a sudden it's intrinsically motivated. They want to look for the things to do, or they want to tell us, there wasn't anything that I liked to do last weekend. Here's what I'd like to do instead. And then we have leadership, and that's great too. So thank you for pointing that out, Carrie.
And I think that's especially important in this, I can't say post-COVID era yet, fingers crossed, but coming back from last year and the social isolation from last year, everybody, even teenagers, got out of the habit of socializing and actually doing things. I know we all have our own version of that in our lives. So I'm so excited that the school is not letting kids get away with that anymore. All right, well, I don't see any questions in the question screen. And I think it's been a very productive and informative session. Thank you. Thank you, all of you who have attended. We look forward to interacting with you in the future. And please be sure to send us any questions that you have. And